Welcome to the Paranormal Bible Podcast. Get ready for, this week, a chilling paranormal probe into two wild flash fiction stories, like ripped from the fabric of fear. Think, blockbuster horror hitting your ears.
Yes, indeed. We have two tales that, well, they plunge us in these fascinating and terrifying scenarios where the ancient world casts this long shadow over our present.
Exactly. Let's start by journeying back to the ancient ruins of the Tower of Babel for our first flash fiction story. The keeper of Babel's tower, right? And picture Dr. Evelyn Grange. She's a linguist, incredibly sharp, maybe a little world-weary, though, She uncovers an inscription, but this is not your everyday inscription. This thing unleashes a terrifying curse, the very force that, if you believe the legends, shattered human languages.
What's so compelling here is this initial contrast, right? You have Dr. Grange, who's rooted in this very tangible world of, linguistics, archaeology, suddenly confronted with something that just completely upends her rational understanding. And the story, it does such a vivid job of painting this picture of her in the oppressive silence of those ruins. What do you think? What do you think that silence itself might symbolize in the context of a story about language?
That's a great point. It's like, it's this pregnant void, right, before this storm of linguistic chaos breaks loose. And then you have Father Miguel, and he writes with these ominous warnings about the power of unspoken words, a power that can become tangible. I mean, it's right there in the text. And so you have this really interesting push and pull between Evelyn's, reliance on physical evidence, trusting the shovel, as she puts it,
Right.
and then Miguel's belief in these forces beyond the material, and it sets the stage for this clash of worldviews.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? In a world, think about it, a world that's saturated with words, the idea that they could suddenly become dangerously real, that carries a unique kind of dread.
Right.
And then you have this pivotal moment, that earth-shattering groan, and it's more than just a tremor, right? As Father Miguel so chillingly notes, it's an answer.
Oh.
And then the sky itself, it begins to warp. It becomes something unnatural, electric. And at that moment, this terrifying realization dawns. Language. Language, the very tool of connection and understanding, it's become this force of destruction.
That is absolutely unsettling. Yeah, and the story spirals into global chaos, from that moment. And you can just picture the pandemonium as these bizarre incidents, mirroring the curse. They start erupting everywhere. And then you have our grounded scholar, Evelyn, suddenly on the run with this incredibly diverse group. You've got Malin, the tech whiz. You got to have one in any modern day apocalypse, right?
Sure.
You got Kadir, the smuggler, right? Morally ambiguous. And then the conflicted Father Miguel, grappling with his faith in the face of, something ancient, something terrifying. What do you think the inclusion of such a diverse group, what does it add to the narrative?
Well, I think it really highlights the universal impact of this linguistic curse.
Yeah.
Right?
Huh.
It's not confined to one culture, to one belief system. It affects everyone. And the fact that individuals from such different backgrounds, they have to band together, it really underscores that idea that facing a crisis of this magnitude, it requires, a multitude of perspectives, a multitude of skills. No single approach is going to hold all the answers.
Right. And so they come up with this plan, and it's almost laughably audacious. They decide the only way to stop this is to go right back to the source, right? To Babel. Their thinking is to use the amplified power of language, even our messy, constantly evolving modern language, right? Against whatever entity is at the heart of this tower. It's a desperate gamble, to say the least.
It speaks to that very human tendency to confront the source of our fears, right?
Yeah.
Even when it seems utterly irrational.
Yeah.
The idea of using the very weapon that wounded them, language, in this overwhelming way, it's a fascinating twist. It suggests that even in the chaos, there's this kind of desperate logic at play.
Yeah. And the confrontation at the ruins, it's just the surreal blend of ancient and modern, right? You've got signal scramblers whirring alongside ancient incantations,
Right.
like digital age clashing with, something primordial. And then out of the darkness, the keeper appears. And it's this being of, it's described as pure darkness and whispers. Just the thought of it just sends chills down your spine.
The description of the keeper as woven of darkness and whispers, it is incredibly effective. It personifies the very essence of this curse.
Yeah.
The unseen, the unheard power of language to shape reality, for good or for ill. the fact that it communicates not through sound, but through this disorienting vibration, it emphasizes its alien nature. It's something beyond our normal comprehension.
But here's where the story throws this curveball. It's Mei Lin, the tech expert, and it's her accidental tinkering with the signal scramblers that actually disrupts the keeper. This leads to a crucial realization, the, quote, contaminated nature of our modern language. This wild mix of ancient roots and slang and internet culture, everything all thrown together. That's actually its strength. Its strength against this ancient entity. What do you make of that idea?
Well, it's a brilliant inversion, isn't it? I mean, we often hear these laments about, the degradation of language in the digital age as perceived impurity.
Right.
But here, that dynamism, that constant state of, flux, adaptation, it becomes a powerful defense against something ancient and perhaps more rigid in its linguistic form. It suggests that evolution, change, it can be this form of resilience.
Yeah, totally. So the climax of the story is this chaotic battle of words. Ancient languages are invoked, slang is hurled, maybe even a well-placed meme or two. And all of it's directed at this being of darkness. And amidst this linguistic free-for-all, Father Miguel, he makes a significant sacrifice. And Evelyn, driven by loss, but also this flicker of hope, she takes this desperate action. And we don't get all the specifics, which almost makes it more impactful,
The ambiguity surrounding that final act, it allows our imaginations to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And that makes it perhaps even more unsettling. It emphasizes the chaotic and almost indescribable nature of this confrontation. It wasn't, a clean strategic victory, but this desperate struggle for survival.
And after all that, the keeper is seemingly defeated. But the story, it leaves us with this lingering sense of unease and this really thought-provoking question, was the keeper the real monster, or was it merely the warden? The warden, something even more ancient, even more powerful. That final line hinting that their story is far from over, it just sticks with you.
It's an open ending, which is, it's a hallmark of effective horror.
Yeah.
It avoids this neat resolution, suggesting that the underlying threat, that potential for language to be, this destructive force that hasn't been eradicated, and the idea of the keeper as a warden, it opens up this much larger, potentially much more terrifying canvas. It leaves you pondering the true nature of the power that they encounter.
Right. Okay. Now, get ready for our second flash fiction story. The Plagues Reawakened, because we're diving straight into a world facing this terrifying resurgence of the 10 plagues of Egypt. Imagine the horror, the Nile turning to blood in Cairo. I mean, just the visual is sickening. Swarms of flesh-eating locusts descending on the U.S. and a whole host of other grotesque horrors that have scientists completely baffled.
This story immediately, it grounds itself in this contemporary reality with this chilling scientific mystery. Dr. Evelyn Croy, our protagonist this time, she's investigating these bizarre deaths in Cairo, the unnatural transformation of the Nile, the initial discovery, victims literally drowned in blood. I mean, that's viscerally disturbing. It sets a dark tone from the very beginning.
Yeah, absolutely gruesome. And then, you have this added layer of the uncanny, right? Father Michael DeLuca from the Vatican, he contacts Evelyn. Talk about an unexpected connection. He suggests that ancient texts might hold the key to understanding this terrifying anomaly. There's mention of a desecrated tomb, disturbed ritual objects. It's like the past is literally forcing its way into the present in the most horrific way possible. What do you think the Vatican's involvement suggests about the scope of this crisis?
Well, it immediately elevates the situation, right? It's beyond a purely scientific or localized event.
Yeah.
I mean, the Vatican's interest signals a potential spiritual dimension to these plagues. They're suggesting that these aren't merely, natural disasters, but something far more ancient and perhaps even biblically significant. It implies this clash between the rational world and forces that lie outside our current understanding.
And the impossible starts becoming reality on a global scale. News confirms the horrifying truth about the Nile. And then one by one, the other plagues, they begin to manifest around the world. Each one is this terrifyingly amplified version of of the biblical accounts. It's like the book of Exodus has suddenly become a modern-day headline.
The amplification of these familiar biblical plagues, it's particularly unsettling. It takes something, that we think we know, and it twists it into something far more grotesque, far more terrifying for a contemporary audience. Flesh-eating locusts, suffocating darkness. It taps into our primal fears in this very, very visceral way.
And, it turns out this isn't just some random supernatural event. There's a modern cult, and they emerge. And these guys are deliberately trying to unleash these plagues for their own warped vision of rebirth,
Right.
And their pursuit, it takes Evelyn and her allies across the globe. I mean, from ancient catacombs to remote forests. It makes you wonder about the motivations behind such extreme fanaticism.
Well, the introduction of a modern cult, it adds this disturbingly human element to the horror, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just an ancient curse or some, supernatural phenomenon they're fighting, but a group of individuals driven by this dangerous ideology. This makes the threat feel both otherworldly, but also frighteningly real.
Mm-hmm.
It taps into our anxieties about extremism, about the misuse of ancient beliefs.
Now, Evelyn isn't alone in this terrifying fight. She teams up with Father Michael, the Vatican expert, and this really interesting group of people, right? You've got Amir Haddad, he's the archaeologist, he's bringing invaluable ancient knowledge. Kenji, he's the tech expert, providing that modern perspective. And the enigmatic Isra. I mean, it's another unlikely alliance, blending science, faith, and a healthy dose of practical skills. What's the significance of these different areas of expertise all coming together?
Again, this diverse team, it emphasizes the complexity of the threat they face. No single discipline or belief system can fully comprehend or combat something of this nature. It highlights the necessity of collaboration, the power of combining different forms of knowledge when you're confronted with the unknown.
And there's this crucial turning point when they discover an ancient amulet, and it actually repels a swarm of those deadly flies.
Mm-hmm.
It's this small beacon of hope, suggesting that there might be ways to fight back against these supernatural forces using their own rules, in a sense.
The amulet acts as this catalyst.
Yep.
It shifts the narrative from one of pure reaction to one where proactive defense becomes a possibility.
Right.
It introduces the idea that the ancient world might hold, well, not only the source of the terror, but also the keys to overcoming it.
Yeah.
It suggests this deeper connection between the past and the present in this crisis.
So their investigation leads them to this hidden temple in Egypt, naturally, right where it all began. And it turns out to be the epicenter of the plague's power. And they uncover evidence of these horrifying ancient rituals, these containment rituals. Like, history is providing them with a terrifying instruction manual.
The discovery of this hidden temple and the details of these ancient containment rituals, it provides crucial exposition. It offers an explanation for the origin of the plagues and hints at potential methods for dealing with them in the present. It reinforces the idea that humanity has faced similar threats throughout history and developed ways to manage them.
And in this climactic confrontation, Evelyn, she steps forward, and she becomes the conduit to contain the plagues. And during this unimaginable agony, her team rallies around her, and their combined strength, it somehow holds back this encroaching darkness. It's this truly powerful moment of selflessness.
Evelyn's willingness to make such a profound sacrifice, it underscores her transformation throughout the story.
Yeah.
She moves from an investigator to a savior, demonstrating this deep commitment to protecting humanity. The collective effort of her team in supporting her, it highlights the power of unity and shared purpose in the face of overwhelming evil.
They manage to contain the plagues, but the world is left scarred, and the team, in a way, disbands. But then, years later, this chilling warning arrives, and it suggests that the cult hasn't been truly defeated, merely gone underground. It's the kind of ending that leaves you, deeply unsettled.
The fragile nature of their victory and that subsequent warning, it creates this lasting sense of unease. It suggests that these dark forces, they're never truly eradicated, only held at bay, waiting for an opportunity to resurface. The cyclical nature of conflict, it's a common theme in these kinds of tales.
And that brings us to the final thought for you. In a world where ancient curses and modern fanaticism collide, what truly protects us from the shadows at the edges of our understanding? Stay tuned for more terrifying paranormal probes into the unknown right here on the Paranormal Bible. And remember to rate and follow for more captivating stories.